Okay, hello everyone and welcome to Trolling with Logic for 21st of October 2012 at 6 p.m. in the UK and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're a bi-weekly podcast focused on religion, science, skepticism and philosophy from a secular perspective. My wonderful co-host tonight, after a long absence, Empty Without Brain making his return.
Right guys, good to be back.
As always, the Kitch 2.
Hey guys.
Mortimer.
Hi.
And another one returning from a long absence, Casey.
Hey.
Alright, so if you want to call in later, just add Skype contact Trolling with Logic with a message explaining your question tonight, and we'll eventually get round to adding in the call. Please do not call us. And also when you come online, please mute your blog TV. And remember, all calls are recorded and uploaded and broadcast live, so if you call in, you're agreeing for us to use your likeness. And if you don't ask questions via the call, you can always ask via the chat room. So our usual moderator, Big Lundy, isn't with us, so I've had to come up with an improvised introduction for our very special guest tonight. If I remember right, he's a former Iraq war veteran, a physics major, and an atheist rapper. Quite a unique bundle, so please welcome to the show, Greydon Square.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Alright, so I suppose first off, just how's things go? You've got a new album out, so can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I basically, for those, let me just kind of give a bit of a general idea about what I actually do. So I'm in the thought-provoking music making business. If it provokes thought, I'm attracted to it. That's the type of content that I like to produce. The people who I work with, Grand Unified Theory, our whole idea is to make music that educates and informs. So the approach that I take with all of my music, this album, the Mandelbrot set being the latest offering of that, is just to get your juices flowing when it comes to how you think creativity, knowledge, skepticism, science, technology, the future, aliens, what it means to be supremely intelligent, the title of God or gods. This particular album is a sequel from my album that I did in 2010 called The Kardashev Scale. Anybody who's familiar with the Kardashev Scale or the works of Dr. Michio Kaku or any of the, Kurzweil, Ray Kurzweil, any of the basic minds in the futurist or singularity crowd. I did this album, The Kardashev Scale, because I wanted to start talking about the kind of pseudoscientific ideas and things that I would think about the future, about what would it mean to have a singularity and for human beings to reach a type 1 status. While I was doing this album, I thought that I could continue that type of approach with type 2. Because on the scale, you'd have a type 1 civilization, which the Kardashev Scale CD was. And then on type 2, you would go even deeper or to a higher level of intellect. And that one, I chose the name, the Mandelbrot set, after Benoit Mandelbrot, who made famous the popular set, the fractal set in somewhere in the 80s. And I'm always studying, I'm always reading, I'm always into new information and new concepts that's going to get me a creative base, basically. And the Mandelbrot set basically was a new offering from the same creative base that had to do with those extremely futuristic scientific principles. I'm dealing with a type 2 civilization on this record and trying to articulate things that I really couldn't even understand because I have no reference point for a type 2 civilization. So hopefully that answers your question. I know it was a long and wordy answer, but hopefully I was pretty specific.
It's just something that came up there. Did you set up Grand Unified, like you kind of looked at the music scene and it was kind of your response to like the state of the music scene, like to come up with kind of like an more intellectual music?
Well, here's the thing. Grand Unified Theory, it wasn't necessarily a coordinated response to anything that was going on in the music industry because, to be honest with you, I'd stay as far away. I'm really what they call on the fringes of hip-hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if this was a wasteland, I'm way out there in the waste of the wasteland. You got to go way deep in there to find my type of stuff. And, because of that, I don't get reviewed by, certain websites that review normal underground rappers and, but I get pirated by those same websites. So, it's you kind of get one or the other. But Grand Unified Theory was just a collective of people who use the same approach to their music. Yeah. Shelley Sqaure, she's not a rapper. She's a guitarist, vocalist from Australia, but she uses her music and her creativity in the same way. She just wants to get that mind firing, make sure you're thinking and questioning certain things. Another person, C. Gatz out of Virginia, another one of our Grand Unified members, he makes a lot of blue collar, working man hip hop from a secular slant. Like, look, I'm working this job and there's nobody out there, that's going to get me another job. I got to go out there and pound this pavement my damn self. That type of stuff matters because it relates to certain type of people and it speaks for certain types of people. So originally Grand Unified Theory, was we almost just gravitated towards each other. It wasn't that I saw the music industry and said, okay, I'm going to do this. It was, Sickness is doing this, Tombstone's doing this, Task is doing this. Wow, we're all going kind of in the same direction. Let's recognize that we're all going in the same direction. Let's put a flag up and say, look, this is the direction we're going in. This is the flag we represent. And, that's it. And that's how Grand Unified kind of came about as a collective entity. Now, we have over 50 members, official members, and, we have different types of members. We have bloggers and writers and, physicists and computer programmers of AI, and it's crazy. And I appreciate every member in it. But the ultimate overall goal was to educate and inform with our creativity. That was it.
And it does I guess you could say maybe the thing of addressing science skepticism, for that matter, free thought, is actually growing in sort of, I guess you could say, the being introduced in the media. For example, it's not always, rap music. There's this one woman, her name's Sarah E. Mayhew. She addresses science skepticism not through music, but through mangas, of all things. So I would say that I think there is a growing movement, sort of that came from people just like you.
And it's interesting because our collective is not people that, we kind of produced ourselves. These were people who already existed, people who already had their own worlds. Like we use the term the G universe because everybody within the G universe has their own world, their own planet, and it's a sovereign nation, it's a sovereign world. And, Greydon Square doesn't come in and be like, yeah, you should make more atheist music, You already know how to use your creativity in a way that provokes thought and intrigue and questions and skepticism. The only thing we did was basically put on the same jersey, if you will.
There's one thing it's not very clear from what I read. Did you start becoming an atheist while you were in Iraq, or was that afterwards?
It's interesting because I've given a lot of thought to this. I had a lot of debates in the military, and I would say this. I was probably already not believing in the Judeo-Christian God at that time because I was having debates with everybody who believed in the Judeo-Christian God at the time. Because the God that I believed in at the time I was in Iraq was not a male or a female. He didn't have a son. It wasn't petty. It didn't care about language and sex and shit like that. It just didn't care. That wasn't the God that I was already past that. But I still had some type of theistic belief. So it's not completely accurate that I was an atheist in the military because I didn't start really professing my disbelief or non-belief until I was about 27. And I got out of the military when I was like 25. So there was a period in there where I wasn't really, I definitely didn't believe in the traditional things that I was taught when I was younger, but I hadn't completely shed that way of thinking.
So you were still a monotheist.
2 years. Huh?
So you were still a monotheist, basically.
Yeah, well, because I still was entertaining the idea that there were other possibilities. To me, if you were to tell me that there were multiple gods at that time, I wouldn't have told you that you were wrong.
So you're agnostic?
Once again, I think it's hard to define exactly what I was. I think agnostic would probably be the best apt description at the time, but I don't
You
even
could be
think
agnostic. You could be agnostic theist.
Yeah, I think that's probably as close to what I was as I was coming out of the military. But, I'm not going to mislead people. I did have some type of theistic belief when I was in the military, because that's all I knew.
I can see what you
I
mean.
think under the process of society,
Oh yeah, no. From what I've heard now, you sound like more of a deistic position, where you believe in a god, but not any particular god that's been identified or described by any set of religion. So yeah, you just believe. I gotta admit, when I was going through cancer, I just thought of an afterlife because the thought of dying, the thought of being dead, just scared the shit out of me. So you go to a more of a deistic position where you think there is a god. You don't know whether he's got a dick or a vagina. You just think, yeah, there might be a god. So, and when you do die, he'll take care of you.
And for me, it was other abstract things like art, creativity, and passion. Those things were more godlike than a guy sitting up in the sky watching me and making sure if I'm on the right path or not. Like that.
Not masturbating.
For some reason, that particular god, the anthropomorphic male with hair sending his kids down to the planet, I never believed in that.
Yep.
I never believed in that. I was a little boy. I didn't believe that shit.
I could actually sort of relate to that, because back when I was, well, by definition, Catholic, because, well, I was baptized, well, I was always having trouble with the thought of a god creating us, because as I learned evolution, I was like, the whole concept of a god creating us started to seem unreasonable. And this was back when I was in, like, the 4th grade. Maybe it was the 5th. Yeah, it was the 5th.
oh, we have a question from the audience, from Beautiful Black Atheist. The question is, what keeps Greydon motivated when he encounters obstacles or within the atheist community?
That's a great name, first of all, Beautiful Black Atheists, because there aren't enough black atheists that are. I mean, that's a serious issue here in America, where a lot of African Americans, I'd say about 80 to 90% of African Americans, that's a majority chunk, identify themselves as a theist of some type or another. So you're basically talking like the 10% of one of the major minorities in this country still has a huge religious, influence. And to answer the question about how I identify or how I keep motivated when I encounter threats in the atheist community, the word atheist community is a bit misused. There are people who have industry in this, and there are people who just want to do something, like who want to make a difference. And sometimes those people get thrown in together at conventions and speaking events and stuff. There are a lot of people who are in this just for the business aspect, because secular people, it's a good market. They buy things. They don't tend to really be cheap. When they like something, they'll go out and support it. And it just seems like when you're around a mix of those people, you don't really notice that much cohesion, so you don't really call it a community. But what I tend to do is stay within my own boundaries within the G universe. The G universe is very large. I don't need to interact with the quote-unquote atheist community. Not to say that I don't appreciate or want to interact with them, but the need is not there. Like, I don't have to, because Grand Unified's community is now what we are growing, and those are the people now that we answer to.
Apparently, Beautiful Black Atheist says it's Briar.
Oh, see, that's relative right there.
Yeah.
So would you say that Dawkins is part of this Grand Unified?
Is Dawkins a member of Grand Unified Theory? Oh, no. I mean, I don't, we've never extended him invitation, but no.
1 second, guys, 1 second.
All right. And Acid Wish is asking, why can't we see you, Greydon?
Actually, I think it's because I'm on my YouTube, and I'm broadcasting this on my YouTube, so it can be recorded as a video.
All right.
So if you switch over to the YouTube side, you get the same interview. It's live, and not to say that to just switch from here, but I'll give you guys the link.
Okay.
If you
And was there any other? Oh yeah, Super Frog asks, are you studying in a school right now, and what are you studying?
Right now, I am not studying. Right now, I am a full-time musician. When I left school for the purpose of becoming a full-time musician, because I figured, look, I can be older and go to school. You know, I can't be older and be on the road and live a full-time musician's life. You know, if I've basically decided, and some people can do both. I'm not saying that it's not possible to do both. But when I started to do both, and with what I was studying, there was too much lab, too much reading and writing for me to actually not write lyrics. And for me to not write lyrics is almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's one of that's the hardest thing I think to do, is to not write lyrics, or to not think in rhyme, or to not speak in rhyme. Every time I talk to my homeboys, it's like whenever we say something, we'll say something that rhymes with it just because. And try to play off each other. It's like this light sparring. It's like, you know, when you're a kid and you start slapboxing and you start slapboxing with your homeboy. It's not that you're trying to injure each other or nothing like that. You're just trying to get a feel as to what your limitations, what your range is, how flexible you are, how dexterous you are. So to answer the question, I am planning on going back to school full time, just not right now. As I'm doing the music thing right now, music is it's like part school, part work. It's all in that, because I got to study for this anyway, for my concepts, my next album. Well, first of all, I have other albums in between the Type 3, but for my next album, it's going to be called Omniverse. Okay. And so now I have a completely different information set I now have to study. If I was in school, I couldn't just jump from one to the other as quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, did you ever try to think about part-time?
One sec, guys.
Okay. Sorry, Gray. I was going to ask, you know, being a black atheist, what was it like when you first came out, like to your friends and family and that?
Well, I think, I'm trying to remember who had the biggest, like, shock, because I like I said, I was always a questioning mind. Even when I was younger, I questioned the nature of God, and why he was presented basically in this book as a 6-year-old throwing tantrums every couple of pages. And I think really the only quote-unquote family that, you know, maybe had an issue with it was one of my brothers. You know, he grew up in the South, and you know, so it's different for him. You know, it's much more of a indoctrination thing from him.
The Bible Belt South.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And you know, I'm from the West, so I'm much more open to different ideas and new ideas, and shedding old ideas. So it's a little different, but you know, he's still family. I love him. That's my brother, and nothing changes. Yeah. It's just I always think about, you know, all of the things that Christians are supposed to believe, and one of those things being hell. I always wonder how my brother thought that I was going to deal with hell, provided that it exists, and how he would feel in heaven knowing that I was in hell. You know, I always ask the question, would it be heaven for him?
By definition, you'd be going to limbo.
Why is that?
Well, because you did hear the concept of limbo from Dante's Inferno. Basically, it's the place where the enlightened pagans, or should I just say heathens, go. If they were good people.
No, Dante's Inferno is not part of the Christian canon.
Right,
so
I was going to say that. That's definitely not part of the official Christian.
Yeah, I know.
That's what is it? Fan fiction.
Yeah.
I know. But of course,
that's the most popular fan fiction of that particular genre.
I know that limbo didn't exactly exist, but I'm saying if it did exist, that would have basically been the place you would have went.
I'd rather be in hell with the cool people.
That's where because I did hear hell is the place where people know how to party.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the weed's gonna be. So there's no weed in limbo. Don't go there.
No.
Yeah, and also, you do get over in hell. You get to meet some of the most smartest people, and also you get the everlasting sex.
Yeah.
I guess if that's your thing.
In my opinion, hell has more to offer than heaven, because heaven, you just go up there and praise some silly cunt for fucking eternity. When in Einstein, in hell, you're going to be enjoying yourself more, because you'll be around people who are more, going to be more like you.
Yeah, and a nicer boss, too.
The concept
Yeah,
of
exactly.
hell, I get threatened with hell on YouTube at least 5 times a day.
Oh.
And at some point, you're like, you do realize that it's not a real place, right? But they're not at that point. But I always think about like just the nature of why hell would exist in this universe, or in that particular universe in the first place.
I guess
what function does it have except for as a place for people to go to be tortured?
Mm-hmm.
So your God created this place for torture. He basically created a Guantanamo Bay, and then decided to stick all of his enemies and the people who didn't believe that he's the greatest of all time in this prison, or in this torturous hellhole, which, called hell. And my whole thing is, why is it even necessary? If they don't believe, remove them or make them believe. Like, you're God. You can do anything.
I guess you could say the concept that we were talking about, basically hell being in hell actually not sounding too bad. I think that idea was also derived in that song by Billy Joel, "Only the Good Die Young." Basically would say, "I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints." You know what I'm...
Yeah, I was going to ask Great, especially, it's kind of weird, like from my point of view, like mainstream rap, how they all claim to be such, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, how is the reaction like within just the rap community to having an atheist rapper about?
Honestly, like I said about just the kind of racial dynamic that exists in the secular community, or the lack of black atheists that actually exist openly, is because, like I said, 80 to 90% of us in the black community are religious. So, if our primary music is hip hop and / R&B, if you want to throw that in there, and in that genre, 80 to 90% of those people are religious, then there's not going to be a very strong welcoming for one who kind of bucks that trend. However, once again, I'm not in mainstream hip hop, nor do I ever want to be associated with it. The thing is, I feel like I get to release music so far under the radar that I never get affected by any of those people. They don't know what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, where I'm doing it. They still think I'm just doing, let's not follow Pascal's wager. They're still thinking that this is like a gimmick or something that I was an atheist and decided I wanted to start rapping. Yeah. And it's not that way. I'm a hip hop head. I come from the school of MCing. If you were to force me to choose between making music and death, if I could make music, I'm choosing death, because that's the school I come from. This is what I am. I'm a musician. So, I don't know, man. It's kind of weird.
I think another question that was tied into, do you kind of see like how weird it is in kind of mainstream rap, how they're, like in their interviews, they're all saying, "Oh, I couldn't do this without Jesus, this and that," and then when they sing their songs, it's all bitches and hoes and popping caps and people.
Well, first I want to see an example of that particular artist, because to be fair, there's a lot of misrepresentations of hip hop. Yeah. Like, even if it's 80-90% religious or theistically slanted, it is not 90% bitches and hoes. Okay. Let's throw that out there. On every podcast I'm going to be on from here to the end of time, I'm not going to allow mischaracterizations of hip hop, because it is far more diverse, far more deep than just bitches and hoes, and it being 80 to 90% of that.
Okay.
So it's not.
Disagree.
So
with
it's
that.
not just So it's not just female dogs and garden tools.
No. And if a person actually thinks that, they're being extremely lazy, because Google exists and you can find hip hop that is absolutely not like that.
Okay.
You know, there's intellectual hip hop that people would say would rival my own. It's just that every now and then you may hear some God shit in it. You know, like, so how is that any better or worse than, what I do? And it's far better than what you hear that's being presented on the radio or by mainstream, which makes it appear that 80 to 90% of that stuff is bitches and hoes, but it's not. And hip hop is not about that. It never was about that.
All right.
So how did the hip hop you know of originate then? How did the idea? How was the idea first introduced to you then?
As far as secular hip hop?
Just rap in.
Just rap in general. Well, I mean, I grew up. You know, I'm an '80s baby, so I grew up in the prime time of the formative years of hip hop, and my primary influences, coming off the tail end of me of like Public Enemy and socially conscious Ice Cube, was kind of gangster rap, because when in my teen years, I was gangbanging, and that was the entire culture of the West Coast, and so my influences of hip hop kind of changed from kind of having a message and questioning things lyrically and asking questions about our social situation, to kind of representing where you're from and being very good at doing that. And then so while I was discovering that, I was introduced to an artist named Cannabis.
Cannabis.
Yeah. And when I first heard about Cannabis's music, or when I first heard his music, it was the first time I heard a rapper ever ask a real serious question. Like, he said, as the universe expands, I contemplate whether it was God or the Big Bang that made man. That's one of my all-time favorite lines, because of its introduction into that style of music. You're not going to hear that from 9 out of 10 rappers.
Yeah.
They won't even go near that diving board. They're too busy worrying about, I don't want to alienate fans. I just want to make music people can enjoy and have fun to. Fine. Then go blend in with the other 85%, because you're just that. But if you want to be a part of the 15%, you got to ask those type of questions.
Okay, we've got a question from Angry Womble. It's to our usual standard. She's asking, what's your favourite Vanilla Ice song?
Damn.
Yeah.
Do I know of any other Vanilla Ice songs? Well, yeah, I'll tell you what. My favorite Vanilla Ice song would probably be the Eminem diss, because at least he had the balls to go back at M. It wasn't a particularly good song, but listen, he at one time was a rapper. You could stretch the term an MC, and when he felt slighted by M, he responded. Great. In the truest spirit of hip hop, nobody got their ass whooped, and some lyrical barbs were exchanged. Cool. So I'd say the Eminem diss if I had to answer that question at gunpoint.
From what I recall of that, didn't he overreact? Like, Eminem wasn't even really talking about him, but he made it this anyway?
Talking about everybody. No, Eminem was poking at everybody who couldn't defend themselves lyrically versus him. Listen, he's a master, probably going to be considered a grandmaster at some point. But to be fair, M in his prime, did not go after targets who had the lyrical capability to strike him back. Look at his resume of beef with cats. I know a lot of people will cite, Cannabis. That was a little bit later, and it wasn't even a direct feud. So you never got a direct confrontation between a lyricism of equal weight with him. And maybe you could argue, well, he was cool with all the people who had the lyrical prowess to hold their own against him. Okay, maybe. But I also feel like he specifically took on targets that would appear funny, and yet they wouldn't bite back. Like, how are they really going to bite back?
Well, to be fair,
MTV, video, whatever, and say, hey, that's the guy right there who was making fun of me, and everybody's going to laugh.
To be fair, he did go after ICP when he was still kind of starting out, and ICP at the time I believe had sold a double platinum disc.
Okay, but you're equating sales with lyrical skill. And if
True,
you
true.
that ICP, that Violent J, or whatever the other guy's name is anywhere lyrically near to the status of the almost technically greatest rapper of all time, we disagree. Because M's technical skill would destroy anybody not named, Tech Nine or, one of those super advanced rappers, the L's Eyes, just where he doesn't have the information base. I think the only way you would get a battle with M is on the information side. But on the skill side, he destroys 99% of the cats out there just off technical skill alone.
True. Wait, I'm trying to remember who Bully was against. I think he just tore after everybody who was part of the Source magazine.
Bully was, it was about Benzino and I think it was about like Ja Rule and like Irv Gotti. Like that was during the whole Murder Inc. Shady Aftermath beef, and I was really into beef at the time, which is kind of why I kind of developed my skill to be kind of an offensive style, because I always felt like, look, you're going to understand that if you come at me lyrically, I don't have an off switch. Like, I'm lyrically just going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming until somebody says, yo, y'all just need to piece that shit out.
That just makes me want to, like, make a video with some, like, really bad rap just to see if you'd respond.
But I acknowledge you, though. I have a rule of non-acknowledgement. I will never acknowledge that person by name. The rhyme, you and I will know that this is about you. Squared is a response to somebody rap song. What's the other one that people say? That's a direct response to somebody dissing me on YouTube. I mean, there are songs. Addressed is another one where I'm actually talking about somebody.
That's probably actually going to be the best one, because like only they are going to probably even know that you're responding to them.
It builds my catalog. You don't get any type of recognition off of anything that I've done. You know who taught me that? Eminem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say your name and give you all of the work and heart and blood and sweat that I've given to this music just because you got a problem with what I said about your fairy tale. And now you want a Greydon Square versus you beef?
Isn't that like one of the things about rap though? Like when you start a battle with people, it mainly is about publicity. It's about getting people to know who you are.
Modern day beef, yes. Modern day beef, yes. There was a time where beef and battle were two different things. Right now, beef and battle mean the same thing. Because every time somebody goes in there, they go in there with the attitude like, even in the battle, it's like, all right, I don't like this cat. I got to develop this. I don't like this cat. I can't give him no respect. I got to go in there. Whereas in the battle, there was certain things that were off limits. Like, you're not going to talk about nobody's kids. You're not going to talk about nobody's family. The barbs won't be so, attacking your manhood. You're not as many pussies or faggots. If a person respects you lyrically, if we just have a difference of opinion, if you just take a Christian rapper or a Muslim rapper and say, you guys have a difference of opinion, you guys should battle. Okay, that's, I would entertain that more so than putting us together and be like, okay, you guys got beef now. Because we don't have beef. We don't know each other like that. I have no reason to beef with him. Where I come from, beef is, there is no words involved. There ain't no rapping.
There's Muslim rap.
No, you're kidding me.
Yeah, that's...
What the
Yes,
fuck?
there's Muslim rap. There's all types of rap. You gotta look up some rap, man. There's not just what... Apparently, it sounds like we've only been exposed...
No, the weird thing for me about that, knowing that, I once talked to a Muslim who told me that music is not allowed in Islam unless you're praising Allah. So that's weird to me, that there's Muslim rap.
What the fuck? Okay, give us a few lyrics then, what they say in Arabic or whatever, the Muslim thing.
I think
Give us a Muslim rap. What do they say?
No, MT, if you watch the Religulous film, I think Bill Maher, he interviews a Islamic rapper, doesn't he?
Muslim rapper,
Yeah.
and translates his lyrics.
Yeah.
Not to say that that is the only representation of a Muslim rapper, because that dude was a terrible rapper, to be honest. Honestly, it's like, just jumping back on the whole beef and battle thing, like, you know, people used to start battles because they maybe felt like, okay, this is a test of my skill. You know, if I defeat this dude, you know, then my standing in hip-hop will grow, while his, you know, will either shrink or be diminished in some way. You know, one of the famous rap battles of all time is Supernatural versus, I think it's Craig G. Basically this idea that one person hadn't lost yet, and his first loss redefined his whole career. And it wasn't about that he has beef with the other dude. It was just that during that battle there had to be a winner and there had to be a loser.
I think the best
decide
changed the outcome of his career.
So who could decide who won and lost then? Who was the
The people generally do. Usually you go to record sales and see what happens after battles.
I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate at all. Record sales are not telling of the lyrical skill. We have to separate that. How much you sell has nothing to do with how good you are.
Yeah, because Atari would know that pretty well since they made E.T. That sold a lot, but it sucked ass.
Right. The worst video game of all time, right?
Yes.
Well, I think record sales
I
at
think
least
I'm on
has,
two video game for.
I think record sales at least has some something to do with whether or not you won or lost a battle. I think maybe it's not the defining characteristic, but it at least has something to do with it.
So let me ask you this question: KRS-One versus Nelly. Nelly sold 8 million records. KRS-One, a lyrical titan, didn't sell 150,000. They battled. They had a feud. Who won that feud? If you tell me that this dude, Nelly, won because he sold 8 million records, you didn't listen to both the songs.
Yeah, and also, I guess you could
I'll
say...
admit now that I actually don't know about that one, so...
I guess you could say that making the claim that just because they sold more than the other, so therefore they're good, is sort of tying into the ad populum claim.
Yeah, by that
True,
reasoning,
but for me,
wouldn't it follow
ad
that
populum
Justin
really...
Bieber is a good artist.
Wait, say that again?
By that logic, wouldn't it follow that Justin Bieber is a good artist?
No.
Because he
I
has
mean,
so
yeah,
many
he
fans.
sells a lot of records.
Or Lady Gaga. Or, you know,
but-
you
yeah.
know,
So, my point is, it doesn't matter how many records you sell. I mean, you can sell records because there's a lot of hype, you know, in media and stuff like that. It doesn't say anything about how good you are.
For me, though, the idea of who's the better rapper, who's the better artist, that in part is at least fairly subjective. It's about your opinion as to what makes someone a good rapper.
Who had strongest showing when it comes to metaphors, timing, discipline, humor? There's a clear-cut winner and loser. And
Don't forget understanding.
Yes, there will be, understanding as well. Claire, there's so many things that go into what it appears like the winner or the loser is. So, I mean, and those things, because, you know, look, from the outside looking in, hip-hop seems like a very strange culture. You know, it's like, there are a lot of things decided by the culture of hip-hop, by the community, even bad, wrong things. You know, like, Will Smith is whack. Will Smith is not whack. But somehow in the hip-hop community, Will Smith is this hip-hop pariah. It's like, we don't want anything to do with that dude. Why? He wrote two of the greatest hip-hop songs of all time. Parents Just Don't Understand and Summertime. If you tell me those two songs aren't two hip-hop classic songs, then get out of hip-hop. You don't deserve to be here.
Well, I got a question.
Take your place. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would you say that there is hip-hop culture vultures?
hip hop culture vultures.
Being people who like really watch intently the culture of hip hop and try and pick it apart.
Yeah. I mean, y'all find that a lot on Reddit, though. I mean, and you're talking about it in a pejorative sense, right? In a negative sense.
Yeah.
You're just talking about it in a general, because I find like the most negative, especially when it comes to the secular community. You know, most of the people in the atheist community have this idea that they don't like rap, that they know what rap is, and that when they hear me, it's like, I don't like, rap, but I like Greydon Square. It's like, well, then you do like rap.
So I'm not doing anything different. I'm just about something different. But...
And every time you say that I'm not hip hop, I'm just going to remind you that I am, and force you to make a choice. Are you going to like some hip hop? No. Okay. Well, peace. Because that's what
I guess you say. I like some hip hop, but not all.
Right. Or not most. I don't like. Look, I like a few country songs, but I'm not ever going to say I don't like country, because I know there's some country I like.
Yeah, I will say. And I can say that I do like some Western music, like some music by Marty Robbins, but I certainly don't like all.
And the point of that whole thing is not to speak in such absolutes. Is not to act like a person has experienced the total catalog of what hip-hop has to offer, and they haven't.
It's like saying I'm a vegetarian, but I really enjoy Big Macs.
Assuming that actual Big Mac meat is made of meat.
I think if people were to say, in general, I don't like hip-hop, but there are exceptions, that would be fine.
Yeah. Well, going back, Greydon, so I was going to ask, like, what really kind of turned you to atheism? Like, was there any books or any figures in particular that really kind of influenced you when you kind of came out of your religious beliefs?
Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I remember kind of wanting to shed just the title of believing, or the title of being a theist, or whatever that was. And I remember I saw the Atheist Walking video with this dude named P-Funk.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a black atheist, and he was walking with his people. I think it's his family or something. And they were having this debate. And I just remember how bold he was in talking to him, and like, dude, this is silly. Why are you believing in this? Why do you want me to believe in this silly shit? And I remember thinking, like, yeah, man, that's how I should be. Like, why am I allowing them to dictate to me what I actually believe and how I live my life? And then that was the kind of the day where I was like, yo, I'm an atheist. But what happened was, I think I wrote this song first. I wrote Extion before I actually called myself an atheist. I was still considered a theist when I wrote Extion. And that was me saying that I was ex-Christian, not that I was ex-theist. And I think maybe it was about 6 months, 8 months after that, where I was just kind of like full-blown. The word no longer had that negative connotation attached to it. I was just kind of free of the baggage of gods completely. That was when I first realized.
Right? Huh? I gotta go. Just my friend's just got a Chinese now, so see you in a bit.
All right, see you later, MT.
See you in a bit.
I think that's a very accurate way to phrase that, though. I'm free of the baggage of this belief in gods, because it really is a baggage. In general, I don't think that belief in God is very relevant to people's lives, but it does add things to their life that I think is superfluous. Like, you really shouldn't have to go to church. There's no reason to, even if you do believe in a God. I mean, I forget the poet who said it. I forget the poet who said it, but somebody said that your body is your temple. You can pray wherever you want. You don't need to go to a church. And I think that would be a fantastic mentality for all Christians and Muslims and everybody to adopt, because we don't really need churches. They're a waste of space. They're a waste of time.
Well, actually, if you're going to pray, according to Jesus, I believe he said that you have to go in private and not pray in street corners like the hypocrite,
He
or
said
out in public.
he said both. He said both during the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Don't pray in public like the hypocrites," but he also said that you should show your belief in Christ, your belief in God, not him, but God, publicly, so that everybody knows. So
he's inerrant.
So it's another one of those, right?
Wanted.
Where the Bible says both.
Inerrancy.
Big multiple choice.
The best way to describe it is inerrancy.
Yeah.
It can't be wrong, but it's both at the same time. You see, logic isn't applied to the Bible.
Well, in a book that says that staves can turn to snakes, that and also that says that there are witches in the world. Well, I guess it would seem reasonable to them.
Okay, we've got a question from Saxula. She would like to ask, have you faced any near-death experiences since losing the baggage of God, and how did it feel?
I think my near-death experience was losing the baggage of religion. I hate to kind of muddy that up, but to be honest with you, if I was to answer that question directly, no. But I feel like when I shed the baggage, I went through this phase where I was like, well, that means I'm gonna die for good. I'll probably be in pain at the end of my life at some point. And that's something that I'm going to have to deal with some sort of grace. Like, if I have any type of grace that, Hitch did, then that's the way I want to go out. Just working to the end.
Actually, you are not going to die. What's going to happen is we're going to install your brain to a computer, then we're going to transport your neuron connection to it. That way you can live forever making rap music. That's how you're going to go.
It'd be nice.
I think the best part about Hitchens' death is that he said in an interview prior to his death, if you hear about a deathbed conversion from me, it's false. I just want to let you know that right now. It's false. I'm less likely to believe now than ever. If I do convert, it's simply because I am not in the right state of mind. Don't listen to it. I think that's something that a lot of people should probably make pretty clear if they're like well-known, outspoken atheists, because it's just awful to kind of spit on someone's memory. Their entire lives are devoted, at least in part, towards fighting religion and trying to expose theistic belief as an irrational thing to do. Yet, at the end of their lives, we were like, yeah, but they accepted Christ in the end, so none of it matters. It's
like, think about how loosely that's conveyed. The same way, it's like, well, just accept Christ or you're going to go to hell. Okay, with what evidence? Oh, because I said it. So you expect me to accept that Hitch would convert on his deathbed? Just you saying it. No evidence or anything? If I don't see a video of him, like, look, I'm in my right state of mind, and this motherfucker just visited me and just told me that he's here. He was just here. That's what I feel. Then so be it. That's not what happened, and you know that's not going to happen because you're the one telling me. Furthermore, all this can be solved. This entire theistic debate argument can be solved by one thing. If your God wanted us to believe, he would show up.
Hey, agreed.
That is an argument that is commonly used. It's called the argument from non-belief, the fact that there are people who honestly don't believe but are honestly seeking God in the first place, yet they still don't believe because they haven't seen enough evidence. I think the counter to that in general is that God's desire for us to acknowledge him is not on that level.
Where did you get, hold on, but you just made an assumption that you know the nature of God.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get this from?
That's my mistake of wording. They don't actually say that he doesn't want you to know him on that level. They say it's possible that he doesn't.
Okay, so you're speaking in a possible sense. Okay, that's great. But what I'm saying is to assume that you know the nature of God and what He wants is,
Yeah, but that argument of if God wants blah, then He would show up, also assumes what He wants.
I think you
So-
should say it.
saying He wants it so much that He would be willing to send all of these people who have no capability of proving His actual existence. Is what I'm saying.
Wouldn't it be more accurate to describe him as it?
I doubt he has a penis, but then again, he did impregnate Mary, so I don't know. But there are plenty of Christians that actually don't believe in heaven or hell. I believe they're the Eastern Orthodox ones.
Or they believe in reincarnation?
No, they believe that God is just sort of like an experience. Like, if you don't experience God, you're not going to believe in Him, but it's fine because He's not going to send you to hell. He's not going to send you to heaven. It's just something that helps you live your life. It's a weird belief.
Okay.
But
I guess these are all assumptions that we make about the nature of something that we give that has no definition, really.
Yep.
I mean, God is not a real word. It's like a title that comes with a bunch of privileges and stuff that we can't really even define. Every time we define one of those privileges, it undermines one of the other privileges.
Yeah, for all you know, you could just use the same title you could use the same description and use it to describe a Daedric prince.
That's a good point.
that's funny as hell. I'm just imagining Yahweh in one of the Elder Scrolls games now.
Sqaure.
And think about it this way. In other universes, Yahweh is a minor god. In Marvel, Yahweh, any type of earthbound or earth-tied god is a minor player in the cosmic game. If that particular God actually does exist, this is all hypothetical. I'm just saying, if that particular God actually existed, I still think it wouldn't have the range and the power that people assign it. And we do a lot of assuming as to what this thing is capable of with no actual empirical evidence as to if it's actually capable of that. We're still working on the empirical evidence that if it's actually here or not.
Yahweh's a player on Marvel?
If he was.
I'm saying I
mean, look at the Nordic gods in Marvel. I mean, they're semi-tied. The Asgardians, whatever. They're Nordic gods, whatever. They call themselves gods, so screw it. I mean, they're pretty much the same way. They're all pretty much these superhero people, but they're also defenders of Earth, and not just Earth, but like a whole section of the universe.
Right, but let's keep on that particular analogy. They too even refer to as higher plane gods or the space gods when they refer to the Celestials in the Marvel universe. So they aren't the tippy top, and even human beings on Earth who would assign Thor, oh, he's the strongest in creation, but even Thor knows he's not the strongest because there are gods above him.
Yeah, and also
one
thing
to be fair, Odin could kick Thor's ass if he wanted to.
I would get
the ruler of Asgard
right now, and he would have that debate with you right now. He says Warrior Madness Thor. It would destroy most people not named Thanos or like any of the cosmic beings, any of the Celestials. If you're a Celestial or Thanos, you probably won't get your ass kicked. But most of those other people, this is Tombstone's argument, not mine.
All right.
Okay.
And also, one thing you must know, if it's true if the gods are like how they are in Marvel, then they can be killed.
Right. They aren't immortal. They aren't eternal. They have a lifespan. Even though to mortal humans, we look at it as like this indefinite, transfinite lifespan. But that's because our perspective is different.
Actually, they are immortal, but of course they can still be killed.
No, because Grandmaster can basically wager on their existence, so they can be killed in some way, shape, or form.
I thought that Red Hulk killed him. Killed Grandmaster.
And Grandmaster's the cosmic being who would be considered like a god to most mortals, and he was killed. They can be killed. That's all I'm saying.
By Red Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think they have like a lifespan, though. I don't think they have like a set age that they just die at. I think generally their mortality is just the fact that someone else can kill them.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But isn't that a sort of it's a matter of time based on the universe that they live in that they're going to come into contact with the thing that can kill them in the circumstances in which they can kill them in at some
They
point.
can be resurrected.
But that's not really an age issue.
No, not an age, but I don't think I was assigning necessarily age, just lifespan.
Okay.
It's lifespan.
Well, more like
that's fine.
mortality. More like mortality is the right word.
But I guess the question is, can the gods die? It doesn't matter how they die, whether it's time or circumstances. Can they die?
I
And if
guess
the
you could
answer is
also.
yes.
I guess you could also say well, according to Norse mythology, the gods did have fates where they would die. Because Thor had a prophecy where he would die in the battle of this thing known as like the Sqaure diet, this giant snake creature that wrapped around the world, and it said that he would die after it bites him during the battle because of its venom.
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking of Tombstone there, here a question for you is, what's your favourite track on the new album?
Oh man, those kind of questions always bring a smile to my face because how do you answer that?
Yeah. There's actually a few fans in here that are like, I can't pick a favorite because there's none that I don't like. So,
and that it really is an honor. To be honest with you, if I had to say my favorite album, just because of emotionally and personally what it felt like to release that particular I don't know, baggage. What's up, man? I'm in an interview. Oh yeah, I do. Nice. Where's
Right. So it's not just Kitch that gets interrupted in the middle of shows with someone.
Also me. I also get interrupted on shows sometimes.
To answer the question, I guess as a legend, because of the baggage that I was able to release with that song, I have a thing about legacy songs. And for those who don't know, a legacy song is basically a sequel of a song on a former album. So, like I have Squared, Cubed, and Fourth. Those are legacy songs. As an artist, as a fan, and as a legend are all legacy songs. Mm-hmm. And so being able to do As a Legend and write that song the way I wrote it, and to be able to kind of still capture that Dear Journal, Broken Home, but kind of do it in a way where I see my life from a 30-year-old's perspective and not a 20-year-old's perspective, or a 22-year-old's perspective. I think I wrote Broken Home when I was like 22, 23 years old. So it was that, As a Legend, was kind of a way for me to kind of look back at that, be like, you know what, don't forget where you came from and how far you come from where you were.
That kind of leads into a question that was left on our Facebook from Stephen Ikadisi. I hope I get your name right. He's asking, how do you feel you've evolved as a rapper, and also how can people support or be a part of Grand Unified?
Oh, well, it's interesting because, okay, so the first question is, how do I feel like I've grown as a rapper?
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, because it insinuates that you feel that I've grown. Well, I study more refined MCs. Like I have this thing about masters and grandmasters. I come from, I put things in the analogy of martial arts. So, I'm a big kung fu fan, and so I look at things in terms of masters and grandmasters. And I studied more masters while making this album than I had before. Listening to RZA, Cannabis, M, Killer Priest, Redman, Young Z, Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang. Like these guys are lyrical masters, and to study their nuances and to see, okay, that's what they do well. I see. It's not, because hip-hop, people think that rap is a talent. And I'm the first person to tell you that it's not. It's a learned behavior. Poetry is a learned behavior. You learn it at a certain age, and Rapping is just an evolved, timed, structured version of poetry. Timing. That's it. It's the only difference. You're restricted into a beat. Everything after that, still poetry.
That was actually something that somebody pointed out to me on a forum once. We were talking about rap, and they said, if you write the lyrics down to a rap song, and it's not put to a beat, it's just poetry.
Right. And that's why when people say, I don't like that rap, like, you don't know what you're talking about, dummy. You have no idea what you're talking about, because you're basically saying you don't like poetry. And if you don't like poetry, then you're probably dumb anyway. So
you have very little taste if you don't like poetry.
Yeah. Come on, man.
You know how valuable poetry is? There was at one time in Japan, well, ancient Japan, there was a story of a samurai that was imprisoned by another clan, and he said, he was given a chance to write a will, but instead of writing a will, he wrote a poem of his thoughts of death, and that resonated to the clan, and so they released him.
No, and the second part of that question, Green, was how can people support or become a member of Grand Unified?
As far as Grand Unified is concerned, what we did was we created kind of, like I said, this G universe. And all of the people who support us are already within the G universe. I guess the only thing that we ask as far as support is, there's a lot more artists than, Greydon Square and Tombstone. There's a Grand Unified page on Facebook. Check us out, like it, so that, you can stay up to date with, when we promote other artists within Grand Unified. I promise you it will have the same quality as a Greydon Square or Tombstone or a Sickness or a Task project. You know what I mean? Like, I think people get a bit weary because they think of crews don't have a notoriously good track record. Let's just put it that way. When a person brings their crew, it tends not to work out so well. Think about G-Unit, think about Shady, Aftermath, think about the only real crew that survived that was good and effective was Wu-Tang. And we've modeled ourselves after that. We've tried to be a modern, very science-heavy Wu-Tang. And so we've made sure that all of our members are extremely skilled individuals at what they actually do, even if it's not music. The best way to support what we do is just get in contact with me. Hit me up on Facebook, hit Tombstone up, hit Sickness up, hit C-Gats up. Hit one of us up and be like, yo, what you got out? I'm trying to listen to something. I'm trying to share something. That's another thing, liking and sharing. If you like one of our music or one of our songs or one of our albums, just say, to your people, hey, I'm listening to this album today. It's dope. You'd be surprised. Just that one person out of 300 and some odd friends might like it too. Now you got somebody to come to the show with.
By the by, I went ahead and just posted the Facebook group for Grand Unified in the chat room for anybody who's interested.
Thank you very much.
There was another question there, if I can. It's Saxula again, and how did it feel to not be in charge of all the production on this album?
Oh, it felt great, man. It felt great. Listen, I've always worn multiple hats as a creative person. I've been a songwriter, a producer, an engineer, a label owner, exec, my own artist, my own manager, my own road manager. It's to not have to deal with the actual creating the music. I did Ultra Combo, but that was, it's the only track I did on this album. And all the other tracks were done by people I know. And to me, it allowed me to write complete and free. I didn't think, well, is this beat hot enough? Because I knew the beat was hot as soon as I heard it.
So would you basically...
Go ahead.
Would you basically describe yourself as, like, a science songwriter? Basically a science writer and a songwriter all in one.
Well, I consider myself a songwriter who embeds science within his songs. I think that's a better description of what I do. And to be fair, I try to tell people, I'm not just, an atheist rapper. I think that was the reason why I became famous That was the reason why people had started to hear about me. But I'm also an Iraq war veteran, but no one ever says the Iraq war veteran rapper. No one ever says the group home rapper. No one ever says, the physics rapper. Some people do. But, no one ever says those things. It's something about the atheist rapper that people latched onto. So people think that they can kind of expect me to be in this box. When it's like, I read so much more things, I consume so much more information than just stuff about non-belief and rejection of superstition and that sort of thing. So for me to embed my music, for me to embed my music with concepts that just make you think, regardless of if it's challenging a theistic stance or not, that's my goal, is to make music that provokes thought. Makes you go on Wikipedia and be like, did he really just say, what was that? I got to look that up. I want to be considered the most Googled rapper of all time.
that would be that's a pretty good goal. We have a question from Epistemical, I think is the name. He's asking whether or not you're ever going to come tour in the UK.
I was wanting to ask that as well.
I want to ask that question.
Careful.
I think it has to do with, when I get invited to do shows, I'm an independent artist. I'm not signed to a label. One of the drawbacks of being not signed is that I don't have a budget to go, just fly to the UK and, pay to buy out somebody's club and to, pay to get on a radio station and to promote that show that night, to even break even so that I could promote the show or promote the album that I'm selling. I just don't have those type of resources, which is funny when people talk about, this album costs too much. That's a whole nother issue I definitely want to talk about. But just the concept of it just being in the cost, if somebody was to invite me out there and, fund the trip, I was thinking about doing a Kickstarter campaign where, we could try to fund, a UK tour or something like that. All of those things are on the table, but financially, it's tough, man. That's something like you basically got to be invited to do something. Like, we're inviting you to be a part of this tour. We'll fly you out, that sort of thing. But, if I'm not that good for them to do that for me, then I need to write better music. So.
But of course, don't have a vote on where you should go, because you remember what happened to Justin Bieber. Once the trolls found him and everyone voted that he should go to North Korea.
Yeah.
Tombstone is just saying, ask him about Lady Assassin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, shoot, Lady Assassin, that's another Grand Unified member, female out of California. And, I mean, here's the thing. Like, we try to take the approach, that when you are assimilated into the G universe, you bring your own set of tools. You bring your own skill set. And as far as young MCs go, she's definitely the most entertaining one I like listening to, because she speaks like I do. Like, I hear a lot of me and her when it comes to how blunt I am about the questions I ask. Like, she was on 2013. And, even the fact that she had a shortened verse on it, she asked like 3 real questions that a lot of people, in our community just fail to ask, and she's much younger than her boldness would give away. So, she is definitely one of my favorite personalities within GU, and that'll be somebody that you can look forward to hearing a lot from in the future. I'm personally investing myself into her success because she has all of those things. She has the bluntness and the skill set to draw you in and to ask those questions at the same time. So much respect to Lady Assassin.
What do they call her, Lady Assassin?
Because
that's what she calls herself.
Yeah, that's what she calls herself. That's her rap name. I mean, I didn't name her, but lyrically, I would say that's an apt description as to what she is. She's very swift, and she gets right to the point, and she's out of there. And before you know it, there's somebody dead on the ground.
So basically,
all because of hip hop.
Basically, she takes all the bogus claims from behind.
Well, think about it this way: you gotta have a good assassin. You got to have someone who's just sitting in the shadows. They're watching you. The people watching you don't know that they're there, and they're ready to just pounce at any moment. And I think that she's very capable of that.
We do have a question from Womble. I don't think this will come as a surprise to most of the team here. Do you think biology is a real science?
Hell yes.
Absolutely not. I think that the world works in mysterious ways, and that the Lord Jesus Christ just wants us to believe that His will makes the world operate in just. Of course, biology is a real. Who asked?
So do you believe in intelligent following?
Well, Womble likes to ask that question because she's a geologist, so she's always
no, I kid. I do.
Yeah,
I'm just,
so,
it's one of those things where it's like, when people ask me and they're like, you actually believe in evolution? And I'm like, believe in you know how many things were wrong with what you just said?
You have to accept evolution.
Well, I mean, it's just like, how much, I always ask people, well, how much do you know about it? Well, I don't know that much, man. All I know is they say that we came from monkeys, and you don't know anything about it.
We didn't come from monkeys.
Yeah, you don't know anything about it. If that's what you know about it, then you can admit to yourself right now you don't know anything about it, and that's okay. So, but some people don't like to admit that they're ignorant. Some people don't like to admit that they're absent.
I'll say right now, I have some knowledge about evolutionary biology, but I am absolutely in no respect an expert in it. So I generally don't approach creationists because I don't have access to the peer-reviewed papers. I don't have access to the jargon. I don't understand it. It's not something that I know.
Well, I'm not minimize the creationist position, but I don't think you need peer-reviewed papers to argue against the existence of a first cause.
Yeah, because they don't have peer-reviewed papers themselves.
That's what this is about. You're arguing against the first cause.
Yeah. Just in retaliation to Womble, what do you think of geology then? There you go, Womble. That's your answer.
As far as geology goes, it's just playing with rocks.
Yeah. Or maybe you could say, but in her mind... But of course, in her mind, it rocks. But of course, as my Earth and space science teacher said, it's the schist.
I was going to expand on. Just wanted to expand on something you were talking about earlier, Greydon, about how people were complaining it's too much for your album. You kind of mentioned it briefly, and you said you wanted to expand on that.
Yeah. There's just this idea that I released it as a double album, and basically I'm charging $17 for that double album. And basically, I was approached by a couple people and said, they feel like $17 for an album, a double album, in today digitally doesn't make sense because there was a standard set back in the day by the industry to inflate record costs, and that the true cost of a record should only be around like $12, $13. And look, you can haggle over price and all that type of stuff. There is a fundamental question that I have to ask these people is, what type of artist do you think that I am? Because that's how you determine if you can or you want to support me or what I do or anybody within GU. If you understand that independent artists are people who literally work for themselves. I don't have a label. I don't have an A&R manager, people who design stuff for me, and we came up with the album cover ourselves. We had a graphic artist that we've worked with for like 2 years now designing it for us. He designed the last album cover. We had to make that happen. On a label, they just tell you go make the music. Could you imagine what I could do if all I was told to do was go make the music?
I imagine a good deal.
But still we have I gotta do the album art arrangement. I have to call the manufacturer and have him tell me, nah, you fucked up again. You gotta send it back to me. I have to get it wrong a bunch of times before I realize, damn, Photoshop doesn't work that way. And sure, I could pay someone, but I'm an independent artist. There's a bunch of people out there who pirate my music, and I tell them to. Don't get me wrong, but where that comes out of my pocket as a promotional expense, and I factor that in. But at the same time, I also have to factor in the fact that because of that promotional expense, I don't have the capital to be able to run things like an actual label would run things, and therefore there's certain limitation as to how much I can actually do at one time. So independent artists are different from dependent artists or signed artists because they just don't have to do as much. They don't have to run their own basic business. Like I'm my own brand, I'm my own business. Greydon Square became a brand at some point. I don't know when it was, but I know that once it happened, I decided to be like, yo, this is what you can expect from this brand. You can expect dope beats, dope lyrics, and a crew that's just as dope.
Okay, I think... Sorry, I just said Admiral Casey's going to step out, so see you later, Casey.
And we have another question from MSDemiclv. He asks if there are any religious people who have made a diss track for you.
Yeah. There was... I'm pretty sure if you look at Greydon Square diss on YouTube, you can find a couple of things. But like I said, when I did, because I probably did hear it and probably took it for whatever it was and factored it into my own music, I never put a name to any of those people. And I could probably remember who those people are, but I won't speak their name into the G universe. They don't exist in the G universe.
I refuse them.
They just don't exist here. You can go check them out and go look up Greydon Square diss on Google or whatnot, and that's cool. Have at it. But I know that those particular individuals have no existence in my time and space. And if they do, it's a small creative influence they'll give me, and they won't ever get the credit for that. So.
Just so everybody knows, I just actually thought if I could look up anybody who did anything like that. I looked up Greydon Square diss on YouTube, and I'm getting nothing.
Really? I guess they must have all pulled them down then, because there was, if you ask Tombstone and a couple of other GU members, there was a few of them up there for a while. People talking about us, one of our other members, Johnny Hoax. Speaking of which, Johnny Hoax is dope as hell. I didn't even talk about Johnny Hoax. We have so many members, sometimes it is kind of hard to get everybody kind of on a plug tip, but that's another guy that people should check out, man. He makes great music. And is one of those people that you'll be surprised of how consistent he is on every single song that he does. So, but as far as the people who diss, a lot of our critics also come from Reddit. For whatever reason or not, it just seems like, I get a lot of negative pushback in the atheist community on Reddit. And for whatever reason, because... Huh? What'd you say?
Who was saying something?
Oh, no, I thought somebody was asking me a question. Anyway, I just tend to get a lot of kind of negative pushback whenever, I have something, that's either, popular or made the front page. And maybe that's because there's a lot of other type of people who come in there as well. But I know that it seems like my fan base outside of Reddit is, I guess, much more accepting of Greydon Square music than people inside of Reddit, which seems to be another community entirely.
We have a few more questions here. The first question is from Nosy War. He asks, what do you think of Anthony David?
The R&B?
I'm pretty sure he means the R&B singer.
Yeah. Anthony's actually a friend of mine. Obviously I think his music is fantastic, but I just think that so many people in the secular community don't really know of his true talent because they're exposed to that one song, and that I believe that song is as a shade of his actual talent of how good he actually is at all the things that he does. So yeah, man, that's actually a pretty good friend of mine.
And great,
I think highly of Anthony David.
Oh, that's good. I actually enjoy his music myself. And Tombstone asks, he wants us to ask about any upcoming projects that GU is working on.
Oh, well, yeah, we got Death Lives. That's a Tombstone record coming out on October 31st to celebrate Halloween. just to stick it to the fundies. We have Seagat's his record. We have, and all these links you can find on the Grand Unified page. We're working on a way to better consolidate so that all of our artists are easily accessible. But there's another page called Grand Unified Music that just focuses strictly on our music, if you can find that as well. But I mean, we have the First Ones album, which is a complete Grand Unified solution. All of our members are going to be on it. It's like, we want to make it like the Wu-Tang Forever CD, where it's just like a posse classic. Like, every song is like 2013. I don't know if you've heard 2013, but that, to me, that's our standard as to how dope we want every single song and how intricate we want every single song on that album, and to tell a story. So we have a lot of projects, and then I think just the fact that we're actually growing, we're trying to grow and expand into people's kind of general consciousness. We want them to know that we are out there. We want them to know that we do understand that there's not a lot of thought-provoking music out there, and that we want to be your main supply of that.
Okay, Rudewax, can you retype that question, because it's kind of cut off in the middle? All right. He apologizes for joining the show late, but is asking, how's your music been met by the rest of the rap/hip-hop world?
I don't really get a lot of feedback from the general hip-hop community, because I consider myself kind of on the fringes of hip-hop. On the, if this was, like a place, I'd be out in the wasteland type thing. And so most of general hip-hop doesn't really even know about me. And if they do, they know of it just kind of by name. And I kind of like it that way. I like being under the radar. I like being able to grow GU right under everybody's nose, and before they know it, now we're a major impact, because we have exactly the type of community that we want. Thinkers. Anybody within the G universe that has become a part of this thing. It's an organism, and like, we want it to grow to reach so many more people. Like, we have fans in like South Africa. Like, I got a fan letter from South Africa yesterday. The reach that we have now is just beyond my wildest expectations about what this was. And that's what we really want people to be a part of. If you feel like you can help us in any way, shape, or form, come to us. Just get in contact with us. We're the most approachable people you ever meet.
There are a couple other members of the whole Grand Unified thing. Sickness, I believe, is one of their names. Mm-hmm. Could you say anything about him?
Me and Sickness go all the way back to the RRS days. We met. Me, him, and Mr. Gone used to rock together. Mr. Gone was another rapper. In fact, Sickness, people don't realize this. Sickness was doing atheist rap before I was.
All right.
He is one of the oldest secular rap personalities that, we have. And it was the only difference was, during that time, I got a different type of exposure. He was getting exposure, but I had a different level of it. But Sickness as an MC, lyrically, man, I'll put him up against most people's favorite rapper. He's exactly what his name is, Sick. One thing I think that people don't realize about him is he has a great appreciation for vocabulary and humor. So he's embedded like this kind of subtle humor into his lyricism that's extremely complex. And he's to me got that sense of humor that's really marketable when you talk about what people come back to. Like, I laughed at that line where he was like, such and such watching Child's Play, like, ugh, that was stupid. And you kind of got like this, there's a humor in it, but it's true. So he's one of the best people I know at doing that. And that's where I think he's valuable, because a lot of times you got to put a kind of funny spin on sick shit, man. And he's good at that. He puts a nice humorous spin on things that are hard to digest.
Who's the other one that I was thinking of? You already mentioned Johnny Hoax. What about Grip?
Grip is probably the smartest member in GU. There's probably a couple other people, I would put in the conversation. Grip is lyrically as smart as the occupation that he has. He does artificial intelligence programming. He's literally one of the smartest people I know. I know a lot of smart people. And he, as an MC, we met as, on some MC shit. I didn't meet him as a fan. I met him as he was, somebody said, yo, you should check out this dude named Grip. He spits too, kind of like you. And I was listening to him, I was like, yo, this dude is dope. And, he's one of those people that he takes a long time in developing his work. Like, he doesn't rush work because he doesn't have to. He's not necessarily, quote unquote, trying to be a rapper. He's an MC. He'll be an MC when he's 90, whether he sells 1 million records or he sells, 4 records. But his music is highly, highly, highly intelligent. And he doesn't shy away from the fact that he's highly intelligent. And he doesn't dumb it down ever. Even I sometimes will say, oh, that's a little too complicated. Let me simplify it a little bit. Whereas I think his approach is, if you don't get it, you need to listen to it again.
It's like, it's not my fault.
Yeah,
I am too
he's kind of
complex for you.
Yeah, it's like, look, that's the information. I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. So.
I do have a question via PM from Sub-Zero Bob, sadly. He's saying, is it not more damaging for you to be known as an atheist rapper rather than a skeptic or secular rapper?
Nah, it's marketable. If I go on Joe Rogan's podcast or Bill Maher's show or something like that, what do you think they're going to introduce me as?
Yeah.
What would it sound like? The secular and science enthusiast? No, he's the atheist rapper. That's the most famous one. I get it. That's a part of the title. That's a part of what I've accepted. But that's also something that I can use to my advantage.
Yeah.
So now people just, okay, well, he's an atheist rapper. What else does he have besides that? I'm glad you asked. Mm-hmm. Because I have a lot of stuff. And a lot of people who talk about a lot of different things.
I'm getting an echo. Is anybody else getting an echo here?
No, not at all. But he's also saying, do you not think you could make more money as a theistic rapper who has converted from atheist?
I could. That's a great money scheme, actually. Yeah. I'm surprised somebody didn't actually think of that. But, well, you did, actually. But I guess
you did, yeah.
But I think you answered that in some of your music. You said, like, you could make more money rapping about bullshit, but you want to stay true to yourself, don't you?
Right, and I think that's what it boils down to. How much am I willing to chuck of myself? How much am I willing to throw out of who I really am in order, to get a paycheck? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to die, and there ain't any amount of money that's going to save me from that. So when I die, what do I leave behind? If I leave behind a catalog of music and art that makes you think, then I feel like I've done something successful and positive. If I don't leave you with that repository, that compendium of information, then I failed.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the weirdest thing that a lot of people approach when they start entertaining the ideas of atheism, that there is no God, or that there's no reason to believe in a God, or it usually is coupled with the fact that there is probably no afterlife as well. And a lot of people, they're kind of really turned off by that aspect, that things end at some point. What would you say to somebody who says, I would be an atheist, but I just cannot accept the idea that there isn't an afterlife?
Well, I guess I would think to myself, how did you accept that there was an afterlife? Just out of curiosity. Because chances are you were taught it by somebody. You didn't just know there was an afterlife. Someone taught you about it, and then you developed an attachment and emotional, albeit very young. You didn't know any better. But let's not act like we came up with these concepts by ourselves. We were taught these concepts by people. Some of us had different instructional methods than others.
What I asked that question because I have a couple friends who are who are not atheists for that express reason that they just don't want there to not be an afterlife.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, well, some people would argue that you would want a physicist at your funeral because they can explain to you the concept of, conservation and how basically you're not dying, you're just changing states, and that the fact that you had consciousness and all this type of stuff while being a privilege was kind of an anomaly in the sense, and that they're basically going back to their original state, which is still preserved within the universe. So life, death, is kind of relative in that sense, where when you're dead, you are what you were before you were alive, and you won't know it. So it's not necessarily that there's no afterlife, it's that life itself is the exception, not the rule.
Okay, question from Rude Wax. Do you like Richard Dawkins, and are you ready to accept him as your Lord and Saviour?
That's funny. No, I mean, me and Dawkins go way back. I mean, I'm not trying to say like I know him or anything, but, we met back in 2007, and, he supported me openly in 2008, and, we've had nothing but, I guess, a positive history. We've done, I guess, many conventions in the same place at the same time, and I definitely have respect for what he's done. I guess the only issue I had with him was his Reason Rally speech. After everybody was talking about how they told all the rappers how aggressive they didn't want us to be, and then his speech was basically kind of this open, like, okay, ridicule everybody who doesn't believe what you believe type thing. And while you can, argue that ridicule is very small and no one really cares if people ridicule, I just feel like I'm at the point now where I'm done making fun of them. Now I just want to expose them to the information. Like, look, yeah, I believe what you believe is silly, but I don't want to tell you that it's silly so much as I just want to show you why it's silly, if that makes any sense. And I think that speech kind of conveyed to me that, we just want to tell them that it's silly, and maybe they'll just, okay, well, because they find it silly, I'll just go run and see what they're talking about. And I just think that's the wrong approach. I feel like I want to be able to show them, here's why we think the way we do. Here's the evidence. What do you think now?
A lot of people generally tend to draw the parallel between ridiculing people for believing in God and when you're a child and you ridicule other children for still believing in Santa when you're like 9, 10 years old. But for me, it just seems like a very bad parallel, because when you're a kid, you're far more subject to your environment than you are when you're an adult. When you're an adult, you're kind of set in your ways in a way. It's a lot harder to convert an adult than it is a child, which I think other religion already knew.
Of course. You know how that is.
Well, I personally, I think the best way to go is to do both. I mean, you can both show them why I think it's silly, but also make fun of them, because that way you're sort of entertaining an audience as well, and that makes others interested.
Well, it's not for their benefit, it's for the fence sitters who are like watching.
Yeah, exactly. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to change someone's mind by talking to them anyway.
Right. Like I said, I didn't think the speech was wrong. I guess I just felt like my position about it is changing. It's evolving into something else, where I definitely want to do more showing than telling.
Okay, there's a question. There's a question from Spartan1189. He's saying, if you could have a smoke with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
It'd be Spartan, and we would have Xboxes set up all in the same room. Battlefield 3 and all of the maps. We'd have a T1 connection. There'd be nothing but weed and alcohol, and we would probably lock the doors and destroy any and all comers in Battlefield 3.
Not a Call of Duty fan.
Not a Call of Fruity fan. I'm not. I'm a Call of Duty. It's the NBA Jam of first-person shooters.
Yeah. Agreed.
I play the NBA 2K of first-person shooters. That's Battlefield, son.
I think
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one question just because it was asked to Tombstone on the last show. Was it Zombie Jesus or Raptor Jesus?
Zombie Jesus or Raptor Jesus?
Zombie Jesus or Raptor Jesus?
Yep.
Yeah.
Choose between the one or the other?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Zombie Jesus.
Yeah, well,
Alright.
you're with Tombstone there.
Yeah. Because you can take out a zombie much easier than raptors.
It's such a perfectly vague question because it just depends on how you look at that question. Like if you're looking at the question as who would win in a fight, that'd be Raptor Jesus, no hands down.
Right.
If you're looking at the question as who I would rather be opposed to, that would be Zombie Jesus.
Yeah.
It's such a I like the question because of that vagueness.
Somebody just quoted that I said that Call of Duty is the NBA Jam of first-person shooters. Wow.
Yeah, you should expect that to be circulating the internet a little bit here.
Steve RP asks, who is Bruce Almighty, and have you not accepted him into your heart?
I've actually accepted Bruce Almighty into my heart as my personal savior. Bruce Almighty is a personality within Grand Unified who runs the main GU page, and he's our video editor. So all the videos that people enjoy, like the fourth video and Myth and Onward and Stockholm Syndrome, he did all those videos. So that's Bruce Almighty. He's the man. He's definitely the dude.
Right, I was going to ask you, you've got the, well, we've spoken about this offline, you've got the GU cast that is that up and running now?
Oh, you know what? What we started doing was streaming from Hangout, like I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And just leaving those up until we have enough of these to basically just turn them into MP3s and put them up as podcasts, and then we'll start doing the actual podcast after that. But right now we're just building up the recorded stream audience, and it's working out pretty well.
All right, and when is that? When do you usually broadcast? Just
you know what? We're going to switch it to doing it on Fridays. We want to kind of have a kind of like a Grand Unified Fridays type. Every definitely every Friday we would have a stream or a live cast of some kind. And we would talk about the week's issues and fan mail and hate mail that we get, and because we get a lot of different types of mail, and we always talked about having a show where we talked about the type of mail that we get. And I got a very unique letter from someone. It really, and I haven't talked about this yet. I haven't even talked about it since it happened, but it brought me to tears. This person had told me that they had stage 4 melanoma, and that it had reached their brain, and that the fact that they had heard my music gave them some measure of peace, because they didn't have the promise of the afterlife. And I was just like, I didn't even know what to do with that. There's a certain, like, you think you're ready for a certain type of fame or, notoriety, and then you see something like that, and you're like, I don't even know how to deal with that.
Yeah, I can totally. I can't relate, but I can understand the impact that would have on somebody. I remember watching an interview with it was one of the guys who acted on Star Trek. I think it was the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk and all them. He played Scotty, I think, and he said he got a letter from some woman who was exceedingly suicidal. And
I heard that one.
Yeah, and he encouraged her to come to his events, and she would come to his events, and he would talk to her personally after one of the events. And then for some reason, she just kind of like dropped contact with him for a few years, and he never knew what happened to her, and he was extremely stressed out over that. And then she wrote him a letter about 8 years after they lost contact with each other saying, by the way, I just want to let you know I went to school and I got a PhD in something, and I'm continuing on with my life. Thank you very much. And he goes, that, to me, is the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, she became an engineer. Just like the character that he played.
Oh, we've got a good question from Pro2002R. If you don't believe in Christ, why do you mock him so much? Hate for what you do not believe in doesn't make sense.
Wait, did I say hate for what I don't believe in?
Yeah.
I never thought of it as hate.
Well, then that's a misunderstanding as to what I do. I don't hate Christ any more than I hate Muhammad or any of the Hindu gods or any of
Zeus.
African Norse
I like to
gods.
say I like to say I don't hate Christ any more than I hate Voldemort.
Yeah,
Or Darth Vader.
you can pick any fictional character. I think the mockery comes from the fact that you teach kids this, and kids grow up thinking that this is still true and accurate, and that's what I mock. I mock adults teaching these types of things to children. I was taught this stuff as a children. I know this stuff now to be bullshit. If there's anything I am, it's irritated by the fact that we don't have a problem with deciding our children's beliefs for them with religion and politics.
Jesus is basically, I think that you could say Jesus is just Santa Claus for adults.
And that may be true, and that may be a way to look at it, but I just think answering the question directly to characterize it as hate is not accurate. Now, the fact that I would talk about something that I don't believe in is because it has a social impact on me, whether I believe in it or not. There are people who believe in Christ who say that they have a moral objection to gay people being married. That affects me. I'm not a gay man, but I have gay family members who they may want to get married one day.
Yeah,
So-
and also, I guess you could say that. Oh, you were going to say something?
Well, no, I'm just saying those things affect me directly. So that's why I speak about those things, because there's a socio-political aspect that goes with that. It's not just, well, you believe in it, why are you talking about it? Well, yeah, if it was not in the everyday world, if it wasn't as pervasive as it was in our society, then I wouldn't have to talk about it. But it is.
Like, for example, you'll have people who over in you have to live with those people who who will have those kind of beliefs, and you have to suffer, and you have to suffer for them. And you have to do something. I mean, I'm not gonna be, because sometimes things like people wanting to basically break the boundaries of church and state. Well, you have to. You can't just stay silent about that. I mean, you have. It would be a good idea to speak up because, and to say your opinion, because otherwise they won't know any opposition.
Well, I think what the question is about the mockery. Like, it's not supposed to be mocked. And my thing is, why not? I mean, at the end of the day, this is a belief system in which the main character, God, is basically a mass murdering lunatic.
Okay,
And we're
we're supposed to accept his son as the Prince of Peace, and basically say that all these other belief systems all over the world is false.
Yeah, according to the
Completely just wrong.
yeah.
And according to the Catholic belief, we have to base our lives off a woman who stuck to her story pretty well.
Right. You know? So for me, it's just, that's the part that gets mocked. That's the part that's mockable.
Okay.
Is that grown people don't recognize, I think, what it actually is.
Someone's asking in the room, is there anywhere they can get some GU merchandise?
Printfection.com/GU has a complete list of a lot of our stuff. However, we're working on our own independent site that's probably going to be up by either the beginning of the year at the soonest and spring at the latest. So we're
also,
what's up?
go on. Just go on.
I was going to say that we have we're trying to definitely build our infrastructure. We actually grew a lot faster than we prepared for. We had no idea that we would grow. Oh my goodness, we had no clue. We have a reach now of like 500,000 people.
Kind of like Facebook.
I've got to say, where's the kind of, well, most strangest place you've received a kind of fan letter or shout out from?
Let's see. I mean, if you're just thinking of
just somewhere you would never have thought you would have. just somewhere just caught you right out the blue?
I mean, I've had like different parts of Africa for sure.
Oh.
Like where?
Egypt, Iraq. There's a guy I know who runs the Global Humanist Movement Facebook page. It has like 100 and some odd thousand. One of our pages, GU pages, and he's a kid out of Iraq, and is a big fan of my music. And when I heard that, I was like, damn, wait, you're in Iraq and you discovered me?
Wow.
How did that even happen?
Because you're an underground musician.
Well, and that's just it. It's like I don't have any promotion. I don't have anybody, pushing music other than people who like it. I don't pay for ads. I don't pay for Facebook ads. You don't see my buy a Greydon Square CD at the bottom right. You don't ever see that stuff. Think about it. Have you ever seen me in a commercial? Have you ever seen me with an ad anywhere? In the 6 years I've been active?
But I would love to. I think you would be great in that.
Yeah, I think
you should
have.
write the ad.
I think you should
got to write
sponsor
the
with.
ad,
I think you should sponsor with Atheist Experience.
Actually, they work with Tombstone's been on. They've had his music on their show.
Yeah.
So that may actually be something that's realistic. I mean, I know Matt and I've had it. At least communications with him at some point. I've met him at certain conventions and stuff, so, we know of each other.
I think you should also try and sponsor with Richard Dawkins' foundation.
I know a lot of people in that organization, too. I mean, the thing is just, it's almost like if they feel they, want to, reach out and help or whatever, that's cool. But obviously, I also understand that there are certain places within the atheist community where I am not welcome. And I don't make any qualms about that. I don't try to fight that. I just do my own thing with Grand Unified. So if those people don't want me around, if you don't want me performing at your events or want me associated with atheism at all or associated with the secular community, that's fine. I will absolutely distance myself from that. But in turn, I also won't reach out to those people as well, because those people have made it very clear that they don't really accept me and what I do and what I bring to the table. So, I mean, yeah, I've made a few mistakes along the way. Haven't we all? But, it seems like within this community, no one ever wants to forgive for those mistakes. So I'll just take it with a grain of salt, keep building what I've been building, and, I'll see you at the top.
I guess the only thing you can do in the community is instead of having to seek forgiveness, you just have to accept that you did it, and that time you did something wrong, and just move on from there, and just try not to repeat history.
Right, and then they say, well, you're the angry one, you're mad. And it's like, I'm not mad about the situation. I haven't thought about the situation in years. I haven't, but they continue to bring it up and make it an issue. So that's why I like my solitude and sanctuary within the G universe. At the end of the day, I kind of like it that way because I don't have to deal with, mainstream rap bullshit, and I don't have to deal with the atheist community bullshit either. If there are people who like what we do and like what I do, they'll support it, and if not, then, atheists or not, they won't.
Funny thing about that, like the whole idea of, well, you're still mad, you're angry. I mean, have we devolved into internet forum trolling at this point when it comes to arguing? You mad, bro? Really? Is that where we're at?
Kind of like this icon.
By the way, concerning the atheist community, we asked this to Tombstone. He didn't know what it was. I don't know if you even know what it is, but do you have any opinion on the Atheism Plus movement?
I haven't really heard about that. Is that like humanism?
Kind. It's atheism plus progressive political stances.
Oh,
But
I mean, I don't know if I would lump the two together. I mean, I just
Yeah.
just keep them separately. That's just my personal opinion. I guess. Look, I'm a non-believer. Okay, I don't believe in any deities or all-powerful beings or first causes or nothing. I believe that things can be explained through natural means and through empirical evidence. Okay, that's what I think. And that may be tied into the atheism, but I feel like to attach any type of political slant to it just kind of muddies the definition of atheism when it should be kind of sterile. Look, no beliefs in God.
Yeah, and also the problem with atheism plus is it has too much. It sounds a little too much like humanism. I mean, the only reason why they made it atheist was like they're just saying not enough people know about humanism. That's why you get the word out there.
Right.
No,
just
sorry. Oh, sorry. Carry on, Greydon.
No. I was just saying that I don't think it's I just think that at the end of the day, it's like, you know, being a non-believer is enough definition in itself for that particular thing. If you want to attach your own political feelings about certain things, then you should just do that independently and just say why. Because to me, that's the problem with people's political opinions now, is they want to talk at things from I'm a libertarian, well, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal, I'm a progressive. Well, stop saying you are things and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
else there is and also I don't think that they should try and make what a true atheist is, because we've already seen because basically the atheism plus movement is repeating history, though of course it's a little bit different, in the forms of something like objectivism, which basically has lots of contradictory beliefs, pretty much has things that are, well, in my standards, taboo, and well tries to make basically what a true atheist is. And so I don't think that they should be the goal shouldn't be trying to make what a true atheist is. I think the goal is just trying to get people to get out of the clubs, if you ask me.
Tombstone Deadman would like to wish Adequate a happy birthday.
Oh, absolutely. Adequate. Happy birthday. That's another GU member.
All right, we're coming to the end there, so I'll let Greydon, you can say a few words.
Oh, well, I end every interview the same way. Don't sign a record contract ever. If for any circumstances someone calls you into an office and they say, we have this deal for you, you know, we want to make sure that you have all the assets and resources that you need to make your music, and all you have to do is just sign this piece of paper and we'll put you to work. We'll get you in the studio and you'll be right at home. You'll be able to just come to the studio. That comes with a price. Do not ever, 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 ever entertain that. If you can't do it by yourself, you're not good enough. Keep working at it.
Otherwise you'll be their bitch.
And lastly,
Pretty much.
the less you need them, the more they'll always want you. Same thing. It's like women. It's like the less you need
Kinda like
them,
a
the more
fat
they
cat.
want.
So kind of like a fat cat, basically. If you give them one thing, they'll want more.
Maybe.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Time's slowly coming to an end. So thank you very, very much, Greydon. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. And don't forget, find us on Twitter, Facebook. Just look up Grand Unified Theory or hit me up on Facebook. I'll give you all the information that you need.
Yeah, and top of the chat room there's a link to my Mandelbrot set, which is just came out this week. Please, it's fantastic. I can't stop listening to it right now. So, again,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
no problem. So we'll see you all in 3 weeks on 11th of November. We're back with Mr. Robert M. Price, the Bible Geek. He'll be taking all questions on the Bible and related history. So you don't want to miss that. So, again, my hosts, Kitch,
Bye, guys.
Martimor,
Bye.
Lundy,
See you guys.
and Casey.
See ya.
All right, good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Nice talking to